keeps saying it was brought to his attention today that we're the only country that does mail-in voting. When is somebody going to step in and tell him that is not true? 34 countries have mail-in voting. All the countries that have mail-in voting. So, okay.
Jimmy Kimmel starts by joking that maybe one day America will finally have a robot president, before immediately saying, it honestly might not be worse than what the country already has now. The audience laughs because everyone knows the joke is aimed straight at Donald Trump. Kimmel then focuses on Trump attacking mail-in voting once again, repeating claims that America is supposedly the only country using it. Kimmel sarcastically explains that almost every country with a postal system uses some form of mail voting, making Trump's statement sound completely ridiculous. But then comes the real twist. Kimmel reveals that right after criticizing mail-in voting publicly, Trump himself voted by mail in Florida. That contradiction becomes the entire punchline. Kimmel jokes that Trump somehow manages to attack a system while personally using it at the exact same time. What makes the moment so funny is Trump never sounds confused or uncertain. He delivers every statement with total confidence, even when his own actions immediately prove otherwise. Kimmel closes by saying, Trump's political strategy often feels like watching someone argue with a mirror and still somehow think they're winning the debate.
A sneak peek at what might be in store for Team Trump come November at the elections. I mentioned last night, Mr. Ban Mail-in Voting voted by mail in a special election in Palm Beach. This is a district Trump won by double digits 2 years ago.
Kimmel then shifts toward election results in Florida, where Republicans expected easy victories because Trump had previously dominated those districts. Trump heavily endorsed Republican candidates and treated the races like proof that his political influence was still unstoppable. But according to Kimmel, reality didn't exactly cooperate. A Democrat managed to pull off a major upset in an area Trump previously won comfortably. Kimmel jokes that maybe Trump's political magic touch isn't working quite like it used to. The audience laughs because Trump constantly presents himself as the ultimate winner whose endorsements guarantee success. Kimmel points out the irony that Trump personally voted in the election while still attacking the same voting system he used himself. That contradiction becomes the center of the joke again. Kimmel explains that Trump's politics often feel chaotic because he says one thing publicly while doing another privately. The comedy works because the contradictions happen so openly and repeatedly. By the end, Kimmel jokes that Republicans are starting to sound like people trying to explain why a GPS led them directly into a lake while still insisting the directions were technically perfect.
Trump said the Republican candidate, John Maples, had his complete and total endorsement and that John will never let you down. And he's right, he won't, because he's back to work as a financial planner. He lost the race. The idea that Trump voted by mail at the same
Kimmel continues by talking about Trump's endorsement of Republican candidate John Maples. Trump publicly promised voters that Maples would never let them down, presenting him as another guaranteed MAGA success story. But then the candidate lost the race anyway, immediately turning Trump's confident endorsement into another awkward television moment. Kimmel jokes that technically Trump was right because now Maples can't disappoint voters anymore. He's back working as a financial planner instead of heading to Congress. The audience laughs because Trump endorsements are always delivered with huge dramatic confidence, even when reality moves in the opposite direction later. Kimmel then pivots back toward Trump attacking mail-in ballots while continuing to use them himself. He sarcastically mocks the proposed legislation targeting mail voting and jokes that Republican leaders now have to explain why Trump's own behavior keeps contradicting his speeches. The humor works because nobody around Trump ever wants to directly admit the contradiction exists. Instead, everyone awkwardly dances around it publicly. Kimmel closes by saying, modern Republican politics sometimes feels less like governing and more like a group project where nobody's allowed to admit the loudest guy forgot to read the assignment.
The House Mike Johnson was asked about this latest act of brazen hypocrisy and did a little tap dance around it.
President Trump has railed against mail-in voting as rigged. He said it's a form of cheating as recently as...
Kimmel then focuses on House Speaker Mike Johnson trying to defend Trump's mail-in voting contradiction during a press interview. Reporters directly asked Johnson how Trump can call mail voting dishonest while personally voting by mail himself. Kimmel jokes that Johnson looked like someone trying to solve a math problem while the numbers kept changing halfway through the sentence. The audience laughs because the contradiction feels impossible to explain logically. Kimmel says this is one of the defining features of Trump-era politics, people constantly scrambling to defend statements Trump himself doesn't consistently follow. What makes the situation funny is that Trump rarely even acknowledges these contradictions afterward. He simply moves on to the next dramatic statement while everyone else cleans up the confusion. Kimmel explains that defending Trump publicly has become almost like improv comedy because officials must instantly invent explanations for whatever happened that day. The audience reacts because everyone recognizes the pattern. By the end, Kimmel jokes that political interviews involving Trump now resemble escape rooms, where reporters ask simple questions and politicians spend 10 minutes searching for a way out without triggering another disaster.
According to NBC News, Trump gets a sizzle reel every day that only shows us attacking them. NBC said there's a daily montage. It typically runs for about 2 minutes, sometimes longer. He sees it every day. One official described the videos as a series.
Kimmel then turns toward reports claiming Trump watches daily video montages showing military strikes, explosions, and dramatic battle footage. According to the reports, the clips are edited together almost like action movie trailers designed specifically for the president. Kimmel immediately jokes that Trump basically gets his own personal Michael Bay highlight reel every morning. The audience laughs because the idea sounds completely surreal, yet somehow believable at the same time. Kimmel explains that instead of receiving balanced information with difficult realities included, Trump allegedly prefers visually dramatic clips showing victories and destruction. That's what makes the segment funny. Politics starts sounding less like government and more like entertainment content. Kimmel jokes that somewhere inside the White House there's probably a production team choosing the best explosion angles before breakfast. He says Trump consumes politics through visuals, ratings, and emotional reactions, which is why everything surrounding him eventually starts looking theatrical too. The humor works because Trump already treats politics like performance. By the end, Kimmel jokes that eventually historians are going to discover the presidency briefly turned into a streaming service where military briefings were edited like superhero movie trailers for maximum excitement.
They're bringing him these fun little action movies of us blowing stuff up. Everyone's telling him how great he's doing. He's got 4 whole cable networks dedicated to kissing his ass 24/7. His staff is terrified to ever bring him any bad news.
Kimmel builds on the idea by describing the environment surrounding Trump inside the White House. He jokes that everyone around Trump constantly praises him because nobody wants to be the person delivering bad news directly. According to Kimmel, Trump lives inside a media bubble where multiple networks praise him non-stop while staff members carefully avoid upsetting him. The audience laughs when Kimmel compares Trump's memory and focus to someone exhausted after a long night of drinking. The joke lands because Trump's presidency often appeared driven heavily by image and ego management rather than uncomfortable reality checks. Kimmel explains that when leaders only hear praise all day, eventually criticism starts feeling fake no matter how serious it becomes. That's why Trump often reacts to bad headlines by attacking the messenger instead of the problem itself. Kimmel says the White House sometimes sounded less like a government office and more like a luxury resort where employees are terrified to tell the owner the building has problems. The humor works because Trump's leadership style always feels unusually personal and emotional. By the end, Kimmel jokes that Trump's ideal cabinet meeting probably lasts 3 minutes and mostly consists of people saying, "Sir, you were incredible today."
That is another consequence of this war in Iran. The president's former pen pal, Kim Jong-un, says the lesson that he's learned is that you can't trust the sweet talk from the U.S. And as a result, he says he's going to make sure North Korea's nuclear status is irreversible. So
Kimmel then pivots toward North Korea and Trump's unusual relationship with Kim Jong-un. He jokes about Trump's famous love letters to Kim, reminding viewers how Trump once acted like personal compliments and friendly meetings were enough to solve decades of nuclear tensions. But now, according to reports, North Korea says it learned it can't trust the United States at all and plans to strengthen its nuclear position permanently. Kimmel laughs at how Trump presented the relationship like a diplomatic fairy tale, only for things to end exactly where they started. The audience reacts because Trump constantly marketed himself as the ultimate negotiator, capable of fixing impossible problems through personality alone. Kimmel then jokes about Kim Jong-un winning re-election with almost 100% of the vote, sarcastically adding that the tiny percentage who disagreed are probably no longer around. The humor works because Trump often treats global politics like personal networking instead of complicated international strategy. Kimmel closes by saying Trump really believed exchanging compliments and dramatic handshakes would magically solve one of the most dangerous geopolitical conflicts on Earth, and somehow he still talks about it like it was a success story.
Pete is fired up.
The President has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that, and so we're keeping our hand on that throttle as long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interest of the United States.
The focus then shifts to Pete Hegseth, 945, speaking in front of Trump about national security and nuclear threats. Hegseth promises America will make sure hostile nations never obtain nuclear weapons, and says the administration will keep pressure on enemies as aggressively as necessary. Kimmel reacts by joking that every speech surrounding Trump now sounds like the trailer narration for a giant war movie. The audience laughs because even routine political statements suddenly become dramatic performances full of intensity and oversized language. Kimmel explains that Trump's political brand revolves around looking strong at all times, which pushes everyone around him to speak like action heroes preparing for battle. What makes the segment funny is how over-the-top everything sounds. Even simple updates about foreign policy start feeling like scenes from an apocalypse film. Kimmel says Trump created a political environment where officials don't just explain policy anymore, they perform toughness constantly for cameras. The humor lands because viewers can feel the theatrical energy behind every speech. By the end, Kimmel jokes that eventually somebody in the administration is going to hold a press conference while walking away from explosions in slow motion wearing sunglasses indoors.
They will not accept Jared Kushner or Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, as negotiators. The Iranians have a nickname for Jared. They call him the sorrowful broomstick, which sounds better in Farsi, but...
Kimmel then turns towards Jared Kushner and Trump's diplomatic efforts in the Middle East. Reports suggest foreign negotiators have little interest in dealing with Kushner or Trump's close allies, which Kimmel immediately turns into comedy. He jokes that it's hard for world leaders to take someone seriously when their biggest qualification seems to be marrying into the Trump family. The audience laughs when Kimmel sarcastically describes Kushner's background as mostly involving real estate deals and carrying Ivanka Trump's purse at political events. What makes the joke hit is the larger criticism underneath it. Trump often treats government positions like family business appointments instead of traditional political roles. Kimmel explains that under Trump, diplomacy frequently feels personal rather than professional. Instead of career diplomats and experienced negotiators leading sensitive conversations, it often becomes Trump's relatives and loyal inner circle representing America internationally. The humor works because the situation feels so unusual compared to normal politics. Kimmel closes by...
according to the New York Times, in some states, gas prices have now jumped more than 30% over the last 2 weeks. And according to the White House, no, they haven't. But what happened to all that oil we got from Venezuela? I thought we were going to be swimming in it.
Kimmel closes by focusing on rising gas prices, fertilizer shortages, and growing economic pressure linked to international conflicts. He jokes that Americans were promised cheap fuel and economic dominance, yet now prices keep climbing while politicians insist everything is under control. The audience laughs because Kimmel frames the situation like someone standing in a flooded basement insisting there's absolutely no leak. He explains that fertilizer prices are soaring because trade routes and shipping systems are being disrupted, directly affecting farmers and food production across the country. What makes this segment stronger is that Kimmel shifts briefly from comedy into frustration about how ordinary people end up dealing with the consequences, while politicians continue arguing on television. Kimmel says Trump constantly presents himself as the master businessman who can solve anything through negotiation and confidence, but reality keeps becoming more complicated underneath the slogans. The humor works because viewers hear grand promises, while simultaneously watching prices rise around them in everyday life. By the end, Kimmel jokes that Trump's greatest political skill may not actually be fixing problems at all. It may simply be convincing people to keep arguing about the show, while the real-world problems quietly continue getting worse in the background. As the entire segment wraps up, what really stands out is the strange relationship between Donald Trump and late-night television, especially Jimmy Kimmel. At this point, it almost feels like they exist in the same non-stop reality show, constantly reacting to each other in real time. Trump delivers dramatic speeches, makes huge promises, attacks critics, contradicts himself publicly, and within hours, Kimmel is on television turning those moments into punchlines for millions of viewers. But underneath the comedy, there's a bigger reason these clips keep connecting with audiences. Trump's political style is built almost entirely around performance, emotion, and spectacle. Everything becomes oversized, every success is historic, every criticism is unfair, every opponent is dangerous, and every contradiction somehow gets brushed aside with confidence alone. Kimmel keeps highlighting that pattern throughout the entire video. Trump attacks mail-in voting while voting by mail himself. He presents himself as the ultimate negotiator, while global tensions keep escalating. He promises economic victories while prices continue rising, and despite all of it, he still speaks with complete certainty every single time. That's what makes Trump such a unique figure in modern media. Most politicians try to avoid contradictions. Trump powers directly through them like they don't even exist. And for comedians, that creates endless material, because every new speech feels like another setup waiting for a punchline. But the reason Kimmel's jokes work so well isn't just because Trump says outrageous things. It's because Trump treats politics almost like television entertainment already. The dramatic pauses, the nicknames, the exaggerated claims, the constant need for attention. It all feels built for clips, reactions, and viral moments. Kimmel understands that, which is why his comedy often focuses less on policy details and more on the spectacle surrounding Trump himself. The audience isn't just laughing at politics anymore. They're laughing at the chaos, the contradictions, and the performance of it all. By the end, the video becomes less about one single controversy and more about the cycle surrounding Trump. Everywhere he goes, he creates a headline. Comedians react to it, supporters defend it, critics mock it, and then another headline appears the next day. That cycle never really stops. And whether people love him or hate him, Trump remains one of the few political figures who can completely dominate both news coverage and comedy shows at the